It was supposed to be just a quick tour. Blue skies, warm weather, the kind of day when even the air seems to say, nothing can go wrong. A group of tourists was getting ready to enter a famous cave in Thailand called Nam Talu. The name, when translated, means something like the cave that goes through the mountain. Sounds poetic, right? The kind of place any traveler would add to their must-see before I leave list. And that's exactly what they thought. 6 tourists, 2 local guides, just another ordinary day in October 2007. They went in laughing, taking pictures, dipping their feet in the shallow water that ran across the cave floor. The sound of the current was calm, almost soothing. No one there imagined that peaceful sound would be the last thing many of them would ever hear. The main guide, experienced and familiar with this kind of tour, looked at the sky before entering. No clouds, everything looked perfect. But what he couldn't see was what was happening miles away, in the mountains where the stream beneath their feet began. Far enough to seem irrelevant, heavy rain had been falling for hours. Inside Nam Talu, the group kept going deeper. The walls narrowed, the sunlight vanished, and the air grew heavier. The guide noticed the water level rising slowly, but nothing that seemed urgent. Tourists tend to scare easily, so he stayed calm. But minutes later, the sound of the water changed, from a whisper to a roar. And anyone who has ever heard an underground flash flood knows there's no warning. In a matter of minutes, what had been a calm walk turned into a desperate run for survival. The water flooded the narrow passages, pushing rocks, dragging people. Flashlights went out one by one. Picture it. Total darkness, the deafening roar of rushing water, panic in every breath. The guide shouted for everyone to climb to higher ground, but not everyone made it. Some slipped, others were swept away by the current. There was no space, no time, no air. In less than 5 minutes, the entire cave had turned into a funnel of despair. 8 people died that day. Only one survived, a British teenager who managed to climb up a wall and cling to a small natural ledge. She stayed there, alone in the dark for more than 16 hours, listening to the water and the distant echoes of screams that had already stopped. The girl survived, but the trauma didn't leave. She was rescued the next day, dehydrated, covered in mud, completely silent. She didn't speak, she just trembled. After the tragedy, Thai authorities closed Nam Talu. They made new rules, put up warning signs, and banned visits during the rainy season. For a while it worked. Everyone seemed to understand the lesson. Some beauties simply aren't meant to be explored all year round. But humans have short memories, and tourism even shorter. Years passed. The signs began to rust. The warnings faded into the landscape, something no one really read anymore. And what had once been a site of mourning became an attraction again. People returned. The tours returned. The promises of safety returned. And with them, the same mistake. On August 6, 2024, yes, almost 2 decades later, another group entered the same cave. 22 tourists, 2 guides, clear skies, no sign of danger. History repeating itself, detail by detail. The tour began early. Laughter, photos, that carefree energy of people who think the world is harmless. The guide, once again, assured everyone that everything was fine, that the weather was stable, that there was no risk. And yes, it had rained heavily the night before, but no one cared. After all, it rains every day, right? By late afternoon, as they were almost out, the sound returned, that deep, heavy roar that no one ever mistakes once they've heard it. The water came from the mountains again, and within minutes, the tunnel turned into a trap. One of the guides, a 37-year-old man, managed to help part of the group escape. He pushed, shouted, carried tourists on his back. He was the last to get out. But when he finally tried to run, the current caught him. His body was found hours later, wedged between rocks, just a few yards from the exit. The headline the next day read, "Closed cave suffers new tragedy after group ignores. Ban." It's striking how these headlines repeat themselves with small variations, as if humanity had a ready-made template waiting to be filled with new names and dates. What came next was the usual: investigation, blame, promises. The park reinforced its rules. The news talked about it for a few days, and tourism carried on. But what no one likes to admit is that the danger never really went away. It just waits for the next group confident enough to believe that this time will be different. That's the irony of avoidable tragedies. They only need time to happen again. And if you think this case was extreme, wait until you hear the next one. Because what comes next proves that you don't need rain, mountains, or wild nature to die in a completely optional way. Sometimes all it takes is one bad decision in the wrong place. And if you've made it this far, it's because this story got to you somehow. Maybe because of the fear, maybe the irony, or maybe that inevitable thought, I've done something like that. So go ahead and hit the like button. Because if you enjoy real stories filled with morbid curiosity and human error, you'll definitely want to see the next ones. Oh, and tell me in the comments with one word, avoidable. Just so I know who really understood the lesson behind all this. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to do it, because the next video is honestly even more absurd than this one.